Welcome to Monogamy Disrupted. I'm your hostess, Naughtia Black.
And I'm your host, Maleek Black.
So grab a drink, slide on into our VIP booth, and let your inhibitions run wild. Hello, sexy people, and welcome back to another episode of Monogamy Disrupted. I'm Naughtia Black.
And I'm Maleek Black.
And this is episode 4, Dr. Feelgood. And on tonight's episode, we're sharing all about our first poly meetup and the sexy surprise ending that came with it. So welcome and enjoy.
And in the previous episode, we talked about how we used Field, the app, and Tinder to do random hookups with amazing people and the pros and cons of each of those apps. That was a pretty good episode. So you're definitely going to want to go back and download that if you haven't had a chance to learn some insights as it relates to Field and Tinder and how we use it. And then we also talked about how we met a sexy scientist, and we're going to get into some sexy details in this episode.
But before we jump into it, Maleek, what's in your glass?
Easy answer: vodka, vanilla cream, and a little bit of ice.
Ditto. So cheers to a great episode. So in tonight's episode, we are chatting all about our first poly meetup that was hosted at a local sex shop, and we kind of ended up going on a whim. So it was kind of a last minute thing for us. We weren't exactly sure if we wanted to go. We had other plans. We ended up canceling the other plans and going to the meetup, thinking, it'll just be nice to be around other poly people, see some other freaks and weirdos like ourselves, and just kind of see what the scene is about here locally. And we expected maybe a handful of people to be there. I was like, if there's 10 people there, it's a great event. When we walked in the door, there had to have been like 30 people plus there.
It was jammed, and it was a smaller type of space, so I was definitely surprised to see not only the 10 people, but 15, 20, 25, 30, probably even more. At one point, I actually saw people coming in, and they were turning around and going back out. That's how jammed it was.
Yeah, there were people that ended up outside, so it was a really popular event. So shout out to the sex toy store for holding such an awesome event, and it's really cool for me anyways to see that so many people locally are in the lifestyle and out and about enough to be at an event like this. And we actually ended up running into somebody that we knew. So we walk in the door and instantly we're like, oh, we know this person. Awesome.
Yeah, I was surprised when I saw them as well. And it was really great. It was a great event. Some really great professionals were hosting it. The sex toy store. They also do a lot of educational events. So at one point, one of the leaders of the sex toy store and educational, that's a long word there, they got up and they started speaking and shared some of the rules of the event and what to look for and how to respect everyone's space. And that was really good. I'm glad that they did that.
Because it wasn't a hookup event. Like, this wasn't like a, precursor to a sex party or anything. This was just like a meetup event. And
that's what we really kind of wanted. At least I went into that just thinking it'd be nice to meet people and kind of share stories and whatnot. And it was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good in that respect. And one of the things that I ended up doing very early on, and I'm sure everyone else did it as well, is they're clearly going to check out people. You want to know who's attractive, who you may be attracted to, and we were able to spot somebody pretty early on.
So basically, Maleek turned it into a hookup event.
I didn't turn it into a hookup event, but as millennials, it was a good representation of all types of ages, all types of people were there with sexual orientations and desires and likes, and that was really cool.
Yeah, so I have a very specific type of human that I tend to be attracted to, and Maleek found somebody there that fit that general description almost to a T, and he started chatting them up, but he had a really interesting pickup technique, I guess.
Yeah, he was a guy, he was dressed really nice. I know it's always, at least for me, exciting when anyone dresses up because it feels like we're always the most dressed in the room. So he dressed really nice, had great facial hair. You could tell he had his life together, which is really cool. And we ended up messing with one of the Hitachi wands, and we were just kind of messing with that. And I said, hey, have you ever used this before? And he said, I don't think so. At least I don't remember his answer. And I handed it to him, and that was really the pickup line that I used to start conversation with him. Because I knew, even without talking to you, I know this is a guy that you would definitely be interested in.
It was such a super forward pickup line. I loved it. And it worked. It worked. And so we started talking to him, and it turns out that he's a scientist, that he was new to poly like we were, and we just really all three hit it off. We had good chemistry. We all just chatted it up. And at this point, I didn't know that Maleek's overall intention was to eventually maybe take this further than the meetup. So we're just, talking and having a great time.
Yeah, I had devilish intentions. There's no doubt about it. And if you had a chance to listen to our sexy episode number 2, First Encounter, if you had a chance to listen to First Encounter, you all know that one of the first desires we had was to have a threesome with another guy, and that did not work out. Listen to that story. You'll like that. But in this sense, I said, you know what? I'm going to throw this pitch, and I'm going to see if the guy could catch it.
Yeah, so we started talking about bondage, and I was like, I think we're all kind of feeling this, so I'm going to just push the boundaries here and see where this goes. So I said, hey, I could teach you how to use some of those ropes and other implements that you purchased earlier today. And he's like, oh, really? And so we ended up talking some more, and finally he made the other guy's name was, we're going to call him Patrick. Mm-hmm. So Patrick just asked, hey, do you want to go take this further and go grab a drink? And we both looked at each other, Maleek and I did, and said, yeah, absolutely, let's definitely go grab a drink.
Yeah, so we went to a local bar. We ended up going from the sex shop, walking a couple blocks to a local bar that's pretty well known in our city. Had a really great time. The conversation was really good. We talked about all types of things, and we all knew where this was really going to lead. But I'm always into foot and mouth disease, and I wanted to make sure that he wasn't going to say anything absolutely crazy at that point. I said, let's go. So we went to the bar, had a really good time, and then we ended up going to his house.
Yeah, so there was a little bit in between there. So when we were at the bar, I was sitting in between both Maleek and Patrick, and it was a really sexy moment for me because I was able to kind of put my hands on both of their thighs and under the table, and Patrick and I played some handsy footsy, and it definitely started heating up even before we made the decision to go back to his house. So that was a really fun moment. And then on the way back to our cars, there was this moment that almost was it just made my poly heart explode, because I was holding on to both of these very attractive men. We were all walking down the street, and I was like, oh, this is a dream come true for me. So we all get in our cars and head back to Patrick's house.
We get back to his house, and he gets there about maybe a minute before we do. And we let him go in and do his own thing, and we just kind of chatted in the car for a minute or two, made sure we were all on the same page. You and I, that is. And we were. So then we went to his house.
Well, so we get to the door, and I looked at Maleek, and I said, oh God, what's his name again? And I had absolutely no idea. And so Maleek was like, it's Patrick. I was like, okay, cool. Let's do this. So if you were ever wondering what level of slut I am slut level. I will fuck you even if I don't know your names.
Yeah, that was a very interesting part. You had remembered a lot of other aspects about him, but you did not remember his name. I definitely was whoa.
And we should have said Dr. Patrick, because he was legitimately a doctor of science. I'm not going to tell you what kind of science, but he's a doctor of science. That's why this is Dr. Feelgood. So we get inside.
And he has this amazing whiskey that was absolutely to die for. So we're drinking it, talking it up. He brings out his dissertation, which Naughtia, you like to look at to confirm he was a doctor.
Instantly wet. If you ever want to get me a lady hard on, booze and talk nerdy to me. That's the sexiest thing you could do.
Yeah. So we're in the kitchen. We're all just kind of talking a little bit, and the whiskey is really good. And at this point, we're all kind of looking at each other, and it's that awkward stage where you, like, who makes the first move? Do I make it? Do you make it, Naughtia? I don't think he was really going to make it.
No, he totally made the first move.
No, he did not. You don't remember the details. No.
At this point, I was like,
so at this point, you two are kind of standing, you're facing each other, and I'm kind of off to the side a little bit. And I walk up to you, and I start making out with you. And then I take a step back, and about a minute or two passes, and he says something to the tune of, well, I know you didn't come here to really talk about whiskey. So he puts his whiskey drink down, comes over to you, and then you two start making out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I was definitely sober enough to consent, I promise. So then we all kind of moved this to the bedroom, and at this point, I was like, all right, I'm going to suck your dick. And so I start undoing his belt, I unzip his pants, pull out his cock, and he gets on the bed, and I get on my knees with his legs spread, and I look up at him with his cock in my hand, and I just start licking the head of his dick. And then I just go to town on his cock, like sucking it and just all down my throat and pleasuring his dick. And he was moaning, and I could just tell that he was into it. So I fuck his cock with my mouth for a couple minutes, and then you came over, stood beside me, and I grabbed your dick while I had my mouth on his cock. So I'm giving Maleek a hand job, I'm blowing Patrick, and I love dick. I want all the dick in my face. And I was just in absolute paradise. So I then turn and start hand jobbing Patrick and giving Maleek a blowjob. And then at this point, everyone has lost their clothing somehow. And so we all get on the bed, and Patrick then fucks me from behind while I suck your cock.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. So I'm sitting at the head of the bed, and you're giving me a blowjob, and he's doing you doggy style, if I remember right. And you two are going to town on that, and that's really good.
Well, I'm choking on your cock, which is one of my fantasies come true. So I think I was definitely in this moment in a state of just like erotic bliss. How are you feeling in that moment?
I was perfectly good. I knew this was a really good weekend where you were going to enjoy yourself really well, and he was the right guy at the right time for us to meet. So I knew that him being inside of you was going to be lovely, and then you choking on my cock was just going to be perfect. I knew you were just in heaven.
Yeah, so Patrick's pounding me from behind. I've got Maleek's dick in my mouth. And then they switched.
So by then, we switched, but I flip you on your back. And so we're doing it mission style, and he's kind of off to the side, and you're giving him head, basically tasting yourself. So you're giving him a really, really good blowjob, and we're going to town. And by then, we had switched a couple different positions, and we were just having so much fun. After about a couple more minutes, I came inside of you. I think by then we may have switched back to missionary style. I came inside of you, and you were still giving him a blowjob at that point.
What ended up happening was then everyone kind of went soft. And it was like, so I was cuddling with Patrick and you throughout. We weren't all cuddling together. It was this weird, like, I was the focus and they weren't touching. It was, anyway. So Patrick was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get another hard on to finish this. And so Maleek then was very gentlemanly and left the room. So then Patrick and I just kind of started kissing, and I just, was like, I just want to I want to make you come so hard in me. Like, what can I do to get you hard and get you off? And at that point, his dick got very hard, and he just climbed on top of me, slid a condom on, spread my legs, shoved a dick in my pussy, and just fucked me silly for another, 10 minutes, and just came inside of me. And it was this wonderful moment. And then Maleek came back in the room and then started fucking me again. And then Patrick did the most millennial thing ever and just starts texting on his phone. It was awesome. So Maleek and I are fucking. We look over and he's on his phone. Yeah, and it was this very weird moment where it was just like, oh yeah, no, we're just having sex with this other person in the room, and there's nothing weird about this weird moment, and it was beautiful, and I loved it. So then Maleek and I fucked for a little bit longer, and then realized what time it was. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh shit, we have to leave.
We have a babysitter. We gotta go.
Oh, the joys of having a child. And so we were like, we could have had the party going all night, but I was like, we have to get home in 20 minutes. So then there was this quick wrap up, and we all grabbed our clothes. Well, Maleek and I grabbed our clothes, and we all kind of kissed goodbye, and that was it.
Yeah, and it was one of those situations where you gave him a hug, I think, something like that.
You guys dapped it out?
Yeah, we dapped it out, and that was really weird because I was fully clothed. I had my jacket on, and he was naked, and I was like, this is just kind of, I've never dapped a guy that's naked before, so that's a first.
Dick all hanging out.
Black history.
It was wonderful. And there was this giant Star Wars poster, and I was like, you guys could totally be best friends. And you'd have, both of you had your dick in me. And so I think one of the interesting things about this encounter was just how easy it was to move it from meeting to fucking, because as we talked about in the last episode, we do everything through apps, right? It's very millennial, it's all online, and it takes a while sometimes to get from, hey, I like this person, they like me, let's chat. It can be 2 or 3 weeks. We're talking to somebody right now, trying to get something set up, and we've been talking for 2 weeks now. And it's going to be another 3 weeks until we can meet up. But this was very much we met in person, we went and had drinks, we fucked, and we were done. And now we have somebody on our Rolodex if we want to, have a party, or if we want to do another threesome, then we can meet up with them again. But I think that was very interesting for me, was just how bam, 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 all this was. And granted, we were at a poly event. It's not like we were just hanging out at a bar. So it was a little more, expectations were a little more laid out on the table. But I think that was the most interesting piece for me, was just how easy it all flowed. It was just so natural. There was no weirdness to it or delay or anything.
No, I agree. From start to finish, it was really 4 or 5 hours, and I liked and appreciated that.
Yeah.
That was a plus.
And if you listen to the second episode, you know that I like not having to make people breakfast, and I like a good fuck and then leave. So that was very much what this was. So yeah, it was really a very interesting encounter, and he was wonderful, and I would definitely fuck him again.
And one of the interesting aspects of this episode is we talked about how we looked at the clock and we said, oh shit, we gotta go relieve the babysitter. So on the next episode, we're gonna give you an insider, behind the scenes view of how poly plays out for us. And we're gonna talk about some insights and some particular aspects of how we really like to get down to the business.
We're gonna give you a more macro view of what all this looks like for us, because one of the interesting things is it can be different for different people. And so we're gonna share how it looks for us. So you're definitely going to want to listen to the next episode. But until then, connect with us on Twitter. Go ahead, pull up Twitter, find us at Monogamy Disrupt. That's Monogamy Disrupt. Tweet at us, or if you don't want to tweet at us, go ahead and slide into our DMs and let us know that you listen to our show, and we definitely will hit you back. So connect with us on Twitter at Monogamy Disrupt.
And if you haven't had the time, go ahead and take the time to rate us. You can rate us on iTunes, and I think you can rate us on Stitcher as well.
Yes, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so that you get all the latest episodes that drop.
Hey, this has been a really good episode. Thank you for joining us in the booth. I'm Maleek Black.
I'm Naughtia Black, and we will see you next time.